Welcome back to a new episode where I want to style links to make them more beautiful. Links are the most basic interactive components between a user and a web page. Using nice CSS link style and hover effects will help to communicate to a user in a visual and meaningful way. In my index.html, you can see that I have an anchor link with link in between it. And what I want to do in this episode is to make the link more attractive for users to click on it. Because if we go to the browser, you can see that the default link is pretty old school and you cannot use them on your own. And you cannot use them on a website these days because they look, well, pretty old school. Now if we go back to the text editor and we go to our style sheet, we can style our link by writing down a, space, opening and closing curly brackets, and in between we can style it. By default, links have underlines, and in order to remove this we need to use a property called text-decoration. This property has four possible values. The first one is underline, which is the default one. We have overline, we have line true, and we have none. And I want to test them all out, so the default is underline. Let's save it, refresh the browser. Let's change it with overline. And the line is now above the link. Let's change it to line true, which is, well, something I have actually never used before. And, well, let's say none, because that's what I always use. It really depends on the rest of your code what you want to do with your link. If I'm using a link without any text around it, like what we're doing right now, I usually set it equal to none. But whenever I'm using a word for a link inside a paragraph, I usually use the underline. So well, let me show you what I mean by that. So let's write down lorem, so we get a text. Let's copy our href and let's paste it somewhere in between. Let's save it, refresh the browser. And, well, you have to look for the link right now. But what I do whenever I have a link in between a piece of text, I actually set the text decoration equal to underline. So right now it's easier for people to see that, well, this is actually a link. But for now, we don't need it. So let's remove it. And let's remove the text. Because I want to set a font size. So let's go back to our style sheet. Write down font-size, and let's say 20 pixels. And whenever I'm working on links that look like a button, I want to set the text transform to uppercase. Save it, refresh the browser, and well, this looks already better. It is also possible to add a background color to the link. So let's go one line below. Let's write down background-color and let's say red. Well, actually, let's change it and let's say it equal to black. Let's save it, refresh the browser. Well, you can see the text, but well, we want to change the color of our font to white. Save it, refresh it. This already looks better. But you can see that there is no white space around the text. And this can be done with adding padding. So let's go back. Let's write down padding. And let's say 8 pixels. Which basically means that we're adding 8 pixels at the top, right, bottom, and left. Save it, refresh the browser. And this already looks better. But we want to add more padding to the left and the right. So what we can do is go right after 8 pixels, hit space, and write down 16 pixels. Which basically means that the top of the bottom have 8 pixels, and the left and the right have 16. So let's save it, refresh the browser. This looks more like a clickable element right now. But in order to make it more effective, we can add something which is called hover. And you're not adding it as a property, but what you want to do, write down a, colon, hover, and followed by a set of curly brackets. And the hover selector is used to select elements when your mouse hovers over them. And you can add the hover selector on more than only links, so you can even add it on boxes inside your HTML, which I will be discussing in the next episode. So what we can say that whenever a button is hovered, change the background color to white. Let's save it, refresh it, and right now, well, our button disappeared. So we need to change the color of the font to black, save it, refresh it, and this looks good. But we want to add a border. So let's add a border of 1 pixel thick. It needs to be solid, and we want the color black. Save it, refresh the browser, and this is what we want. And if we change it to, well, let's say 4 pixels, you can see that the border is, well, thicker than 1. But I want to keep it as 1 pixels. What I like to do whenever I'm working with hovered buttons is to add a transition. And this is a property that allows elements to change value over a specified duration. So right after our border, let's write down transition. And we need to set the time of the transition. And let's say that I want to load the transition after 0.25 seconds. And then we need to specify how we want it to look, so how it will transition. And I like to use the property ease-in. Save it, refresh the browser, and if we hover on it, you can see that there is a delay of 0.25 seconds before the hover styling appears. But if we set it, well, let's say to 2.25 seconds, refresh it, and you can see that, well, it takes a pretty long time, and that's not what you want. So I try to use something around 0.25 and 0.75. This was it for this episode, and in the next episode I want to talk about the box models in HTML. If you do enjoy my content and you want to see more, leave this video a thumbs up, and if you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button.